people like you. The word on his financial future. Now, here's your line.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. This is Gary Quackenbush, your host of The Word on Wealth. It's super good to be along with you today. I love Wednesdays. It's midweek. It's hump day. It's the day that we all become so much smarter because I have, as my guest on the show on Wednesdays, Ken Pecus. He is the founder of the Ken Pecus Group at eXp Realty. He's a friend of mine. He's friend with some of my family, and we've known him for quite a while. So it's been super good to have him be a partner with us on the show. Super excited to have Ken with us on the show today. Ken, how you doing?
Hey, Gary, I'm cold. I'm cold, Gary.
I know.
That's what I am.
It's not supposed
it's great to be here.
We're freezing to death. It's almost 50 degrees outside. What's with that?
It's funny,
I'm
though. Looking for my property tax rebate.
Well, the thing is, I always like it when it's cold, like when it gets like, oh, good. It's 60 degrees outside. I can wear my down parka because I have this really cool marmot down jacket that I like, and it has to be like 60 or else I can't justify it. But then we're talking to my son, Ryan, last night. He's up in Provo, Utah. And we're talking about some stuff we're up to. And he said, oh, wait, just a second. It's really quiet. And he goes, okay, all right. Okay. You know what? I'm going to have to call you back. So what's up? And he says, well, it rained. It snowed a foot this morning, and it's supposed to do 18 more inches tonight. And I'm in the middle of a blizzard trying to get to work as something like that. And he goes, whoa. Okay, whoa. I got to hang up. And he hangs up. It's like he's on the freeway driving in like a foot of powder, and it's bringing down another 2 feet that day. So we were feeling, and we looked outside and we're going, it's drizzling. So
I'll put an extra jacket on. There you go.
In comparison. Ken, it's so great to have you today. I want listeners, there's one phone number you need to know with anything to do with real estate. Okay. We have a really good lineup of stuff we're going to talk. We're going to talk about short-term rentals today, which is super cool, like crazy controversial, I think, in some areas of town. But Ken's phone number, 619-977-8419. And you can text him or call him at that number, 619-977-8419. And his website is Ken Pecus. It's KenPecus.com. So Ken at KenPecus.com is his email. And we'll be giving that out throughout the show. If you forget, just call me on my regular line or go to my website, gqlaw.com. All right, Ken, this is really cool. So there are, San Diego, I guess, is going, San Diego does crazy things. I love San Diego. I love the weather, except for today. But it's like, I've heard they've passed some regulations. Well, finally passed some regulations, but they're going to really dramatically affect the short-term rental market. So I want you to tell us the short-term rental market. What is it? And then what's with the San Diego regs that they're just passing?
Got it. Okay. So let's start with what is a short-term rental and what isn't. So the way the state of California defines short-term rental, it's any occupancy, any kind of rental that's less than 30 days. Okay. So if it's more than 30 days, that's not short-term. If it's less than 30 days, it's simple. And why do they have 30 days? Because throughout the state of California, if you rent for 30 days, if you rent for less than 30 days, it is then subject to what they call the transient occupancy tax. I'm sure lots of people in San Diego have probably heard of TOT because we've had voting on it because like increasing the TOT for the convention center and different things. All hotels pay it. If you go to Las Vegas, New York, San Francisco, you pay like crazy amount of TOT. San Diego's pretty high, but not quite as high as all those places. So with all short-term rentals, whether you're on a platform like Airbnb or whatever, you're obligated to pay the city, the municipal's TOT that's in place. And so it's important to understand that when we talk about San Diego, we're talking about the city of San Diego. Carlsbad has its own regulations. Coronado has its own regulations. Encinitas has its own regulations. So that's essentially what just what short-term rental is.
Okay. I can see why people get annoyed by that.
Yeah, it's exactly. So couple of things. You know, this is a constant, or this has been since it was founded, since like Airbnb and couch surfing, you know, throughout the country and world was founded. It kind of provided a really nice little extra income for a lot of people that were able to then to use their properties to try to generate a little income when they were trying to make, when they were trying to make ends meet. That's kind of the situation. But it is obviously worldwide grown into a massive business where when something like that happens, there's always going to be that segment of the population that just, I don't want to say necessarily takes advantage of it, but wants to take it to the ultimate limit. And then that's when the conflict comes between, people and neighborhoods and, somebody's right to quiet enjoyment and your right to your property rights to be able to do what you want with your property. And so that's what has generated all these short-term rental regulations throughout the world. It's not just San Diego or California. I mean, we're talking some really stringent things everywhere from, Israel to Barcelona to China and how you can do it. So San Diego just has finally come in. So now it's San Diego's turn.
Interesting. So then what they're trying to do then is make it so that they're trying to regulate if it's a short term, then there's the transient occupancy tax, the TOT, and then who can do it and when they can do it and what areas. Are most of the regulations just like, I'm sorry, you can't do anything in this area? Or
No. In fact, effectively, you can do short-term rentals in almost all places.
2 minutes.
HOAs have the ability to prohibit short-term rentals. And the HOA is a little bit different. And you buy into an HOA, you buy into the rules and regulations of an HOA. So like, let's say you're in a tower downtown, right?
Mm-hmm.
They can absolutely say there's no short-term rentals in this place. Or if you're like on a condo in La Jolla on the beach or something like that, they can say no. And that's part of the HOA. The HOA rules are the ones that vote on it. But that is only for 30 days or less.
Okay.
That's when you can do it. When you go more than 30 days, a whole different civil code goes into place. And so that's something I want to actually address a little bit down the line here in our conversation.
Okay.
But just for the same short-term rentals, that's what's going on right now. And San Diego has finally come up with a set of regulations. Everybody has been notified. It actually goes
1 minute.
July 1st of this year. And the first levels of licenses have all been issued.
Okay, interesting. Well, those are things that we really do want. We want to dive into a little bit with you. We have our expert, Ken Pecus. He's a realtor here in San Diego, a friend of mine, friend of my family. His number is 619-977-8419. 619-977-8419. Ken at kenpecus.com. We're talking about short-term rentals, which is anything less than 30 days. So you're getting into the different platforms like Airbnb and things like that, and the taxes and everything they're subject to. Ken and I are talking about some regulations that San Diego has come up with effective July 1st and how that's going to affect the industry. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about how these regulations, what's coming into effect, how it's going to affect, and then how to kind of get into that thing. And because Ken has a lot of information on the short-term rental market here in San Diego. If you want to call, we do have lines open. You can call us directly here. It's 888-344-1170, 888-344-1170. We'll be back in a second.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Well with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST. You're saving and investing for the future, and that's good. Have you ever stopped to think, where does my money actually go? This is faith-based investing with Anthony Wright.
Most Christians just don't understand that the money they save for retirement usually helps fund the abortion industry and other liberal anti-family causes. But did you know that with just a few minutes of your time,
No, can you hear crackling? Because I've got it in my headset. I don't know if you can hear it on the air.
Absolutely
That's because I had to turn you up because you were too low, and then you started speaking too loud, so I had to turn you back down again.
Oh, but I mean,
So
it's going right now. It's like,
Then the choice is
can you
yours.
hear it? No.
That's nope.
Okay,
Or
that's
you can
me.
line up your investments and life savings with your beliefs. We are fiduciary investment advice.
But since I told you, I don't know if you're moving away from the mic, but make sure you stay same distance because
Yeah.
I'm having to turn you up and down.
Okay.
Your free book is waiting for you. Go to BibleSafeInvesting.com and be sure that you listen to Faith-Based Investing this weekend right here on Family Talk.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting.
Well, you have 2.5 minutes. I don't know if you want to disconnect and try reconnecting.
Yeah, I'm going to do that really quick. Probate. Quite right.
Told me about an opportunity to get involved in the residential side, and more than 30 years later, here I am. If you had
Use it. Did it help you?
nurse out there, what would you say? I would say
Did that help you?
Trying to.
That's why our experience matters.
we talk through all aspects of the job to make sure we have all the bases covered. Miramar Kitchen and Bath. Go to our website at miramarkitchenandbath.com.
It wasn't that way. And
and you
then
get
the
some
middle of the show,
ideas
it
about
just
what we
started.
could do in your home.
That's weird.
Yeah, I was doing it right now.
7333.
Oh, well.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law 855-500-TRUST or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com 855-5.
You are live.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush and Realtor extraordinaire, Ken Pecus. Ken, I'm so glad you're here with us on the show. I want to let our listeners know we're talking about short-term rentals. This is cool stuff. I mean, I don't know, I know I've done them, short-term rentals, where you've rented, and I've really thought it was a great opportunity to rent somebody's house out or estate or something like that. And it's good stuff. So we're now talking with Ken Pecus at number 619-977-8419 about the short-term rentals. San Diego passed some regulations. They start July 1st. Ken, what do we need to know? What would you like our listeners to know about the short-term rentals, about the regulations that was passed?
Okay, so I think it's really important to know that, first of all, I believe that they're a great investment vehicle for investors that are potentially starting out. Maybe they're farther than starting out. They're it gives a variety into what a portfolio could be. So with San Diego, let me just go really quickly. There's 4 kinds of licenses. The first one, tier 1, is where you rent it out for less than like 20 days in the entire year. And those licenses are unlimited. Anybody who wants one just makes the application, can get it. The second license, which is called tier 2, is if your property, if the owner of the property lives on the property and is renting out a part of the property. So like a person that owns a duplex, a triplex, or a 4-on-1, it's an ideal situation. I personally live in a duplex. I Airbnb my second unit out, and I'll talk about that later. And those licenses are unlimited. Tier 3 is the one that you're probably hearing the most about. That's where somebody just wholly owns a property. and gets a license for it. And those are the ones that are limited, except when the licensing went in place, they didn't even use all their licenses. So they were going through another round. And so effectively, almost anybody that wants to get an Airbnb license, or I mean, a VRBO license that has been in good standing, that's been paying the transient occupancy tax along the way, most likely is not going to be denied. So that is there. And then the final one is tier 4, and that they've carved out a niche with Mission Beach, because Mission Beach and the beach area over there has always been short-term rental, right?
Oh yeah.
So they've made a much higher level of licenses available for Mission Beach. And so that's actually 30% of the entire listing inventory in Mission Beach can now be short-term rentals. So that's how the licenses all work for San Diego. And every municipality has something slightly different, but since San Diego's the big gorilla in the room, let's just talk about them right now. Okay.
All right.
So one of the things that's really great about a short-term rental is that you have flexibility of having the space. So let's say you want to buy a place, and I'll just use myself because I have one, but I've sold just a whole numerous amounts of deals to people that have duplexes and triplexes, whatever. And one of the best things is you can get much better interest rates when you're owner occupying a property. So let's say it's your son, and your son was buying a property here in San Diego and couldn't quite qualify for, a house, right? But then sees a property that has 2 units on it. And well, with the help from the rent from the second unit, they can actually qualify for it easier than they could qualify for the same house, because you can use the rent for the second house, the second property, towards, to offset your payment. Mm-hmm. It makes a logical sense. Well, with short-term rental, you can do that now in San Diego. You can live in that property, and you don't have to necessarily rent out that other side long-term. You can rent it out as short-term rental, and you can make your rent that way, and then you can have the use of that property anytime you want. Let's say you have friends visiting, family visiting, you can actually, block out the days and use it. To give you perspective, I rent out my second unit maybe less than half the days in the year, okay? Maybe less than 100, 180, 170 days a year. And what I make on that Airbnb rental, minus all my expenses, actually pays my entire mortgage for the whole year.
Wow, that's great.
Okay. That's a huge thing for so many people that are trying to, you could be going towards retirement. You could be going, it's just another cash flow issue that you can pay attention to. Even during the pandemic, I was able to easily rent it out to a USD college co-ed. They loved it. They were close to the school. Parents dropped the money in, and then they moved out. I got rented out for the summer. Everything goes great. If I rented long term, I'm probably going to make half of what I'm making as the short term. Okay, so that's why it's so attractive to a lot of people. The return on it is pretty significant compared to long term. Now, the other side of the thing is, why are so many people against it? Well, because if you wanted to live in a hotel district, you'd go buy a place in the hotel district, and it's loud. There could be there's parties. People are on vacation. You understand that. So that comes down to the regulations, and that comes down to why there's unlimited licenses for people that live on the property, because basically they're looking for people that are going to watch over the tenants and make sure that they don't get out of control, because everybody now gets held accountable for what happens at their property with their licenses. And that's really not unreasonable.
Makes sense. So with the licenses, they looking for, I'm going to apply for a license, and it's going to be, Gary's Investment Properties Incorporated. We're trying to get 18 licenses for these little houses that we're going to rent. That's what they're looking to prevent, right? I mean, they want somebody to be more responsible. It's owned by Ken Pecus, and they know, he's a person, he's going to manage this thing. That's interesting.
And there's the sign has to be posted there, with the phone number has to be posted there. If somebody has a hard time, they can call in with the license number, and there's enforcement. And because, just think about where you live, Gary. Do you really want your neighbors, whatever house is right next door to you? Do you want the family from wherever USA to come in and finally get to let loose because they've been so stressed at home? And of course, they're going to have a great time, and they have 10 family members. They put the music on, and do you see what I mean? You're coming
Yeah.
home from work. It's all about finding a happy median between quiet enjoyment, the rights of everybody to quietly enjoy their neighborhood, and then the property rights of people to legally, make money off of their property, which is totally reasonable.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Hey, listeners, we are talking with Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. The way to get a hold of him to talk about, buying and selling. If you have a building that you want to do short-term rentals, or that's available for short-term rentals, you want to sell it, or you want to buy an investment like that. This is all the kind of stuff that Ken does. He'll do commercial and regular rental, individual properties. He's really good. I fully endorse him. He's worked for me personally. He's worked for my family for many, many years. 619-977-8419. You're listening to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus. We're talking about the kind of the really nice things about the short-term rental market. Ken, I wanted to ask, so if my question as we're going through this, I said, well, how do I buy one? Is that something where I call you and say, hey, Ken, I'm thinking about getting a short-term rental property. Do you have anything? Is that something that you have inventory of or availability, or you can watch for?
Absolutely. But it's not, almost any property can be it depending upon your situation.
Mhm.
So each person would be different. You'd sit down and talk about what each person is trying to accomplish. And from there, there's always an answer to how you can get there. You see what I mean?
Yes.
It's,
Okay.
And here's another thing, if I have an extra half minute.
Okay.
Remember I told you that the condo complexes, the HOAs, could turn down short-term rentals, right?
Mhm.
Well, a year and a half ago, state of California actually passed a very, very, very strong regulation in favor of property rights for condo owners. And it's Civil Code 4741. And what that now does, it prohibits an HOA from putting any kind of restriction on units that a minimum lease period would be any greater than 31 days. It was very common for buildings downtown, big, large condo complex to say, anybody renting here has to have a 6-month minimum or a 1-year minimum lease, or you can't rent here unless you have a 2-year. So the state of California has squashed that across the board, across the entire state. So now every condo complex, and they had until June of last year to amend their CC&Rs. You can go into any condo complex if you own it, you own the property, and you are allowed to rent that unit out for 31 days or 60 days or 90 days versus you do not have to meet a minimum. And in the age of post-pandemic and even pandemic, this is a big, big investment opportunity for a lot of people. I sold 5 or 6 units last year because there is such a remote work ethic right now going on throughout the country that people are constantly going into places with only 30 days and 60 days and want to remotely work for 30 or 60 days. Okay. One of the biggest ones is traveling nurses. Traveling nurses is the biggest option where they want a fully furnished place. So it's not short-term rentals,
2 minutes,
the TOT, but they'll be in San Diego for 2 months or 3 months. They rent it at higher than what you would normally get as long-term rental rates, but it's certainly a lot nicer than staying in a hotel for 2 or 3 months.
Interesting. And that I like that, man. This is so good. That's why we have you on, man. It's a Word on Wealth. You're helping people figure out how to do it, how to get through and around the regulations. There's so many of them. Hey, I've got a question. We really only have a couple minutes. Would you have time to stay on for another segment? If not, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Because there's just too much. I mean, this is really exciting stuff. I'm thrilled. Real estate investment is something that I really enjoy, and I know it's something you are. That's how you make your living, man.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do, we're talking to Ken Pecus, who's a real estate professional. His number is 619-977-8419. And he's agreed to stand for another segment. So we're going to have him. And what I want to do is after we take a break in just a couple minutes, I want to open the line so that you can call and ask your questions about short-term rentals, long-term rentals, purchases, sales. It's 888-344-1170 is the phone number here at the radio station, 888-344-1170. So those of you that are listening from anywhere, whether it's North County or San Diego or wherever, we've got this station going all over the place. We'd love to hear from you. 888-344-1170. We're going to be doing that after we take a brief break, and then we'll continue our wonderful conversation with Ken Pecus of the Pecus Group. And then I will get my computer to stop crashing on me and I'll have it back up. So when we come back, I'm going to open the lines. If you guys want help from me regarding estate plans, wills and trusts, setting up corporations, LLCs, if you need to contact Ken and you can't remember how to do it, just remember my number, 855-500-TRUST. I'll help you with any of that stuff, 855-500-TRUST. We'll be right back on the Word on Wealth with Ken Pecus.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com. The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Call or click to request your free initial consultation or to talk with a member of the team. Call Gary at 855-500-TRUST. GQlaw.com.
You're live.
Happy Wednesday. We're here with Ken Pecus of the most incredible realty organization here in San Diego County. Ken is the founder of the Pecus Group at eXp Realty. There's two easy ways to get hold of him. Email, piece of cake. It's Ken at kenpecus.com. And Pecus is spelled P-E-C-U-S. His phone number, which you can text him or call him. It's on him. And I know it is because when Ken goes on vacation and I need him, he takes his call and I get mad at him because I'm going, dude, you're in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Stay on vacation. But he takes my call. That's Ken. 619-977-8419. And we are currently talking about short-term rentals. Ken, thank you for staying on for an extra segment. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So I think it's fascinating that you get, there's this kind of feel that the government, like City of San Diego, they really do want to support this, but they want to be able to make it so that it's kind of pleasant. And so that's why, you get these things like HOAs for condos are like super controlling. I've represented some of them and it was absolutely shocked at what they would do with people. I'm going like, gosh, you guys, you're not, this is crazy. You're kind of a regulatory body, but this isn't Congress. What are you guys doing? And very interesting disputes. I've had disputes where this is back when I would, really fight for cases. I had things where there were HOAs and we were kind of going after the HOA and saying, you guys, this is illegal what you're doing. Just really super overzealous, like we're protecting our tenants and residents. But I love that it's like you get these civil code regulations where somebody figures it out and they go, hey, we can control this. It's not like you should ban this. This is not like this evil act that somebody's renting out their place for a month. It's not a bad thing. Let's just kind of deal with life and realize that this is what happens. So sometimes we do need the civil code to be modified or amended to help protect that. And I'm glad that sometimes things like that happen. It's just the way we are. People kind of wait for a law to pass. So I want Ken to go a little bit further down the road. First of all, I want to make sure if there's any callers, if you want to call and ask Ken a question about this stuff, please do. The number's 888-344-1170 to be here on air with Gary Quackenbush and Ken Pecus. So we talked about getting licenses, and you have the 4 different tiers of licenses for your short-term rentals. But I really wanted to talk a little bit more about like as an investment idea, like if somebody, because I get people that inherit money. So they inherit money and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. So I put it in the stock market. That's insane. And it's up and down, and the real estate market, and that's up and down, not quite as much. But they call you and they say, hey, Ken, I have some money I want to invest. I have good credit. I don't know how much I'd need to invest, but I'm looking for a thing that I can have my daughter live in one side and I can rent out the other 2 or 3. Well, how does that process go with you?
It's actually, it's a great process. So like you said, it depends on where they come from. If they're going to live in it versus if they're going to have some family members versus they're not going to have anybody live in it. Okay. I mean, any related person live in it. So it's an investment property. And when you're buying an investment property, you're going to be looking at investment rates. So the lending rates and the down payment is different than if you were like just buying something for you to occupy yourself. Often people will buy their own principal residence and pay 5%, 10%, or 20% down. With investment property in general, you're going to have at least 20% down, most likely 25% down, and for sure 25% down if it is a multi-unit property. If it's like a 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 4-on-1, there could be some exceptions out there that I just don't know of. But in general, rule of thumb, you want to have about 25% down to do that. And like you said, with people, especially the people that inherit money, that's not something that is unreasonable. People come into that kind of cash position. So then the choice is, what do I do with it? Like you said, do they go stocks? Do they go bonds? Do they go whatever? I think I'm always a big proponent of diversified. I have a little bit of everything, but I obviously believe very strongly in real estate, because as I look back over the course of my life and prior to my life, because I've kind of studied housing trends, I haven't seen in San Diego, despite all the ups and downs that you naturally take, where somebody who bought has ever done badly. And investment property is just one of the best cash flow things. It's sort of like getting the best stock out there that is paying you a dividend every single month, no matter what the performance of that stock is. It's a wonderful thing. I have in addition to Airbnb, I also have long-term rental, and it's a wonderful process. It's all part of my long-term retirement plan. I have the same kind of appreciation over the course of time. And then one thing that I try to have people remember is that when you're trying to look at your rate of return on these investments, like for a vacation rental or whatever it is, you really need to pay attention to the amount of money that you're actually investing versus fully leveraging. If you bought a place for $800,000, for instance, and you put $200,000 down, 25% down, and then in 5 years, that $800,000 place was now worth $1.1 million. Just picking a number at random,
Mhm.
some people tend to think of, oh gosh, it went up 300,000 and, we bought it for 800,000. So it's actually appreciated. I've actually made whatever. I've actually made 45 or 40% of my money. Where in fact,
Mhm.
if you bought it for 800,000 with putting 200,000 down, and the renters have been paying, whether it's short-term rental or long-term rental, have been paying your mortgage, you literally just made 150% on your money, because 300,000 on the 200,000 that you actually invested is a much bigger return on it. And so you have to look at it a little bit differently. And so all of that is involved when somebody's going to come down and sit down to try to see, is this the right angle? It's how much money you're actually investing and how much money you're leveraging with the bank, and then getting your future tenants to pay that leverage.
Yes. Now that is an interesting conversation. I'm glad you brought that up, especially because, we are the word on wealth. And that's one of those things about, wealth and wealth building and money. And the one thing, really like to emphasize and focus on with our listeners is there are ways to look at things with math. That you really have to have the math down on these, because we really tend to look at, you're right, my house is worth, I paid $6 million, it's now worth $1 million, and I made $400,000. Well, no, how much money you didn't really pay 600, you paid, 150 or 100,000 for the house, and you borrowed the rest. So now your 100 property goes up 400. You've made, on your 100, you made $400,000. That's pretty good. That's 400%. But and you talk about the principle of leverage, and there's just differences. Like, I think that, kind of the I don't know if you will, I mean, not bashing them, but like the Dave Ramsey theory is, oh, no debt, no debt, no debt. But I think that's really a simple way of, if you have no debt, yeah, you're right, then you're not going to worry about interest, and going up and all that kind of stuff. But when you're looking at it as leverage and you've got it managed properly, and you're doing like you're talking about, like, get duplexes or quads or tries or something like that, where those might be something that would pencil out, especially, clients of mine that they, come into inheritance, and you're thinking, oh gosh, what am I going to do with my, $400,000? Maybe I'll put it in investment and just kind of eat off of that for the rest of my life. Or is it something where you take part of that to buy a property, to put that down, you're 25% on a commercial property? These are the things that you talk to Ken about, right? We call Ken, and Ken will go through that. See, I think that's the other thing, Ken, that I find different about you than other, realtors that I'm, very familiar with, is that you're willing to talk to people kind of in the upfront and say, well, yeah, here's some thoughts, maybe work towards this, or no, you really, that's over your head. But I just think if people call, I like to have this conversation and get to know Ken. So I'm encouraging that. And I know Ken is totally all for that. His number is 619-977-8419. And if you call him and have that conversation, especially it depends on how old you are. If you're in your 50s and 60s, that's when you're inheriting money, typically from parents, and you got other things going on. So it's just a good idea to really get to where you know what's going on. If you talk to Ken to kind of get started, he'll refer you to a really good mortgage company that we use. I have a couple of friends of mine that I use, and you get qualified to figure out, well, what could I really afford? And some people are just absolutely shocked at what they can do. They always wanted to own real property, but you read the newspapers going, oh my gosh, the rates are up, the rates are down, and don't do this. But it's like you pencil the numbers in and go, wow, this is incredible. This could actually work. So I encourage you to call Ken, write down his number, 619-977-8419. And then he can kind of talk you through that, as you can see. So Ken, I pretty much ran us right out of time. I want listeners to know that if they forget Ken's number, you're going to always know mine. You're going to hear it 100 times during my show, 855-500-TRUST. I've worked with Ken very closely on selling some properties. I have family members that have known Ken for 25 or long time, right? And he's just been super helpful. He's not your typical real estate person. He's not your typical realtor. Ken owns the company. He does his work personally. His team's awesome. You will love talking to his team and getting the help that you need. Buying and selling real property anywhere in San Diego, anywhere in Southern California. If Ken can't do it, he will find someone that will help you with that. So make sure you give him a call. His website is kenpecus.com. So you can email him, ken@kenpecus.com, or call 619-977-8419. Ken, thanks for being along. I'll talk to you later. And then next week,
Pleasure.
we'll get you back on. So we get you to be our partner with the show. This is Gary Quackenbush on the Word on Wealth. We'll be right back.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
Long time about estate administration. So what is that? And why is it important?
Estate administration is the distribution part of estate planning. So when someone passes away and they leave money to beneficiaries, the property has to be administered. So it's like taking it from the decedent to the survivor. That's called the estate administration process. So usually you're going to have a successor trustee that's named in the trust. They'll have no idea what they're doing because they've never done it before. So then they call on GQ Law and we walk them step by step on how to be a successful and good successor trustee. We also do the required notifications. We notify the Department of Health Services and all the legal requirements so that they can have the estate administration done properly. We help successor trustees be successful.
Call or click to request your free consultation. gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST. gqlaw.com.
You're not alone. Ask for the legal help you need. Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500.
You're lying.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Word on Wealth. It's really good to have you along today. We just got off with Ken Pecus. He's a realtor. I mean, I told you he really knows his stuff. And it not only is he smart, he's fun, very energetic. He's that way. He's that good. Anyway, I couldn't endorse him any higher. If you have real estate needs, 619-977-8419. It's just taken me a long time to be able to get a spot on my show to get Ken, and he's been gracious enough to come on the show, and we're trying to get him on every Wednesday. So keep listening up. Tomorrow, by the way, we've got Anthony Wright, who is our favorite investment guy. He's going to be talking about his the way he can screen investments, the Bible safe investing, and stuff like that. And also, I usually am able to get him, like, pin him down and say, hey, Anthony, what would you do in this situation? Or what are your favorite stocks today? And that's what we're going to be doing on our show on Thursday. Two things that we really need to cover today in the last part of the show, just real quick. If you need help with your estate plan, if you want to figure out with your real estate investments that you have, okay, great. Ken helped you get into it. You know, James Carmody helped you finance it. You got things going, you got your investments and all that in order. That's all great. But we still need to talk, okay? Because what if you do buy, let's say you call Ken, and like I told you, his phone number is 619-977-8419. You call Ken, hey, Ken, I got some money to put down on a house. I'm trying to figure out, da, da, da. So you buy an investment property, and let's say it's a a fourplex. And you let your kids live in one of the fourplexes, and you say, if you're going to live there, you're going to be the property manager. So the other unit or the other 3 units, they get rented out, they're taken care of. Your kid now knows how to run a business. What do you do with that? How do you hold that property? Well, one thing, absolutely, for sure, 100%, without any question at all, it has to, at least, at a minimum, it needs to be held in your trust. Absolutely. Your personal residence, and now this rental. Now, this rental is a business. That's the bottom line. It's not a personal asset. It is a business. So that business now needs to be maintained like a business. You get business insurance. You're going to have business responsibilities. You're going to have customers, tenants, whether they're long-term or short-term, however that works, you're going to be making money, and you're going to be subject to the taxation rules and all that stuff that have to do with people making money. It is a business. If your kid is living in one of the units, they are a business manager, and they need to be compensated or paid appropriately. All right. Business means if something happens in that property, in one of the rentals, and they fall down and break their neck or break an ankle or whatever happens, you're going to be held responsible, not your kid, the manager, but you as the owner. What you don't want is that to cause a disaster to where any liability, any lawsuit, something like that ends up going to your personal residence and your other rentals or attaching to your investment accounts. So what I always recommend is we need to have a conversation. If you have rental property, commercial property, and you want to make sure it gets into your trust so that it goes to your kids, I say there's a step that we do first. And that is we talk about creating a limited liability company or creating a corporation to own that property or maybe properties. But the limited liability company or the corporation becomes the owner of your property. Okay. The owner of the corporation or the LLC is your living trust. Okay. So the living trust owns the LLC. The LLC owns the property. Okay, now there's not going to be property tax consequences or anything if you do that right. But now you have, if the rental property gets sued, it's going to stay in the LLC because the LLC is a separate business. It's running the business. It's renting out the 3 units. It's the LLC is the one that hired your kid to be the property manager. The LLC is collecting the rents, paying for the insurance. It has the liability. It's maintaining the building. So the LLC does all that work. The LLC is owned by your trust. So in the event that you became incapacitated, whoever your successor trustee of your trust is will now be the owner of that LLC. So that means that they can continue to manage to have the property taken care of. So they're going to continue to make sure that your kid does the property management, that the tenants are happy and all that stuff. So once you pass away, that money, that ownership of that LLC is going to be in the trust, and that will pass on however you want. And I'm assuming we're saying to your kids. Okay. So now you pass away, and your kids, if you have 2 or 3 kids, they now each own a portion of the LLC, and the LLC owns the rental property and keeps you protected. Okay. So anytime you have any type of business enterprise, you really need to seriously consider whether it should be an LLC or a corporation, or whether you can manage it as a sole proprietor or as a partnership. I wrote a book. It's really short. I just write short books. I'm not an author, but it's a help book to help you understand the differences between sole proprietor, partnership, limited partnership, LLC, and corporation. The book is on my website, and it's for free. It's only about 25 pages long. It gets emailed to you. If you go to my website, we will email you that book. Go to my website, gqlaw.com, GQ like Gary Quackenbush, gqlaw.com. And the book is called Accidentally Self-Employed. The cover, you can see the cover. It is a picture of a gal on the front of it. It looks like has a severed head, but it says, accidentally self-employed. Should I incorporate or form an LLC? The accidentally self-employed thing, that is actually my story. It just briefly explains my story and how I became self-employed when I had no intention of being self-employed. It explains what happened to me. And so I've had to make some of those same decisions. should I incorporate or not? And so, of course, I incorporated my law firm. It's called GQ Law Corporation. And so we love that fact that we're a corporation. It was helped me with taxation. It's helped me with money control. It's helped me with budgeting. It's helped me to be a better businessman. It's helped me in many, many ways. It's helped me do marketing and all that stuff. So I love it. I love the idea for multiple reasons. And you can too. So if you want to find out about, call me up. I'd be happy to talk you through it. 888-344. No, that's the station number. Call me at 855-500-TRUST. 855-500-TRUST. And you can talk to me about whether you should have your rental in a limited liability company or in a corporation or with a partnership agreement. See, a lot of what happens when you own property is you want to make sure that while you're alive, everything gets taken care of. If you have co-owners, that everybody's pulling their weight, right? Doing their share. The downside is you also want to make sure if somebody does something stupid that you're not going to be burned by that. The other part is when you pass away, you want to make sure that your children, your family gets the benefit of that property. Okay. But think about the flip side. What if you're in this property with 4 people? Okay. You're thinking, well, when I die, I definitely want my share to go to my kids. And you got 4 kids. Well, you die, your 1/4 goes to your 4 kids. So they each own 1/16. And now there's 7 owners. Is that going to make your siblings very happy? Your partners? What if it happened to you? Your sister passes away and she's got 3 children. And now her 3 children own her share. So her 25% is represented by 3 people. Okay. Do we really want to do that? Do you want to be a business owner with your niece or nephew? Maybe they're great people. Maybe they just want nothing to do with business. So anytime you set something like that up, I always have some type of a buyout agreement or there's a life insurance agreement. What happens is, if you died, your kids don't get the business because there's other owners. Instead, the business buys out your kids. So let's say the business is worth $1 million because it's a quad, a fourplex. $1 million fourplex, technically your share is $250,000. You die, the fourplex, the company that's owning the fourplex, this would be your LLC or your partnership. They write a check to your kids for $250,000. So they're out. They don't have real property anymore, but the other 3 own the property in total, but they just bought out your kids. And that can be done in a bunch of different ways. But that usually is the best way because people talk about this. Well, we have our family home and it's this family vacation home and we want to own it together and we want to keep it in the family. Well, that's all well and good, except when you have ownership and you have one kid has 4 children, one kid has 3, one kid has 6 children, the other kid has none. Well, how fair, when you all die, now what happens? Well, the one with none,
1 minute.
It didn't go to anybody. It now goes to his siblings. So it just gets messy. Multi-generational rental properties are extremely difficult to keep intact. So usually you want some type of a buyout, but without a written buyout, a written agreement, something to establish what happens if somebody wants out. What if they get divorced? What if they go through bankruptcy? What if they get sued? What if they die? You want to make sure that it addresses those things to say, if one of these things happen, then here's how the business will come to an end. Here's how that money will be paid out to your heirs or to your family or whatever. That's all important with estate planning. And that's my thing. I'd love to talk to you about it. 855-500-TRUST is my number. Let's talk about your will, your trust, your healthcare power of attorneys. Let's talk about whether your rentals and rental properties and investments should be in an LLC, a family company, a corporation. We can talk about those things. I'm happy to do that with you. That's fun. I do it every day. 855-500-TRUST. Give me a call on that. Tomorrow, Anthony Wright here on The Word on Wealth. Make sure you stick around. We're going to have lines open so you can give Anthony a call. We've got some good calls coming in on Anthony's lines. Usually we have them on Thursday. So we look forward to having Anthony back here, same time, same station tomorrow. This is Gary Quackenbush on The Word on Wealth. Bye, everybody.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995. With financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for
Thank you, my man.
Thank you.
this
No,
program
we'll talk to
discusses
you
general.
tomorrow.
As far as I know, Anthony should be here. So
Yep.
haven't heard otherwise.